welcome back to Grace, Pastor Wayne Stoutenberg. Welcome back to have him back. It's the first time as Bishop Wayne Stoutenberg. I'm sorry, Wayne Miller.
I know him too.
Yeah, sorry about that. Bishop Miller knows his way around. I'm sure he's going to say a little bit more in the first service about that. But it's good to welcome him back, especially where we are in our congregational life. So it's an honor and a pleasure to have him back. Nice to have him back before I leave. So, Wayne.
Thanks. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to start by sharing with you a reading for this Good Shepherd Sunday. This is from the 10th chapter of the Gospel of John, where Jesus says to his disciples, I am the Good Shepherd. The Good Shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. The hired hand, who is not the shepherd and does not own the sheep, sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and runs away. And the wolf catches them and scatters them. The hired hand runs away because a hired hand does not care for the sheep. I am the Good Shepherd. I know my own, and my own know me. Just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. I have other sheep that do not belong to this fold. I must bring them also, and they will listen to my voice. So there will be one flock, one shepherd. For this reason the Father loves me, because I lay down my life in order to take it up again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of my own accord. I have the power to lay it down, and I have the power to take it up again. I have received this command from my Father. This is the gospel of the Lord. I always like to start out when I preach, particularly when I'm not in places very often, by reminding you that I actually don't come alone when I come to these gatherings. I come bringing greetings from a whole lot of brothers and sisters, some 100,000 baptized saints that worship in the 200 or so congregations that in Cook, Cane, DuPage, and Lake County that make up this metropolitan Chicago Synod of ours. As we take our place among the 4 million baptized saints in the 65 synods of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, taking our place among the 80 million baptized saints of the Lutheran World Federation, taking our place among the saints of every time and every place. It's good to be able to bring all that to you, and it's great to be able to be here today and be able to share a time of worship with you and to be back out here on the western front of the Metropolitan Chicago Synod, which actually, as you may or may not know, was home for me for many years. A little further downstream, I was at St. Mark's in Aurora for 13 years before I was elected bishop, so there is a sense of coming back home when I come here, and it's sort of reassuring to come and to know that I can still find my way around these parts. So now that I think about it, excuse me just a moment here. Good. That's good. Google Maps. I was thinking about the fact just now that after the service is over, I'm scheduled to meet with the Congregation Council, and just in case that doesn't go well, it'd be good to program in a quick escape route. So you know, truthfully, I mean, I know it's second nature to a lot of you, but for us old ducks, this whole business of programming in our destinations and our routes, this is all new. I resisted this thing for years and years. It seemed to take all the fun out of it. I mean, it took all the adventure out of being able to go around and sort of discover as you go where it is that you're going. I've always been one of these Moses-type guys who would rather wander in the wilderness for 40 years than actually stop and ask for directions. You know, that's kind of my style. And besides, this is home for me. I mean, I've lived on the territory of this synod almost all my life. And I've worked here virtually all of my working life. It's home, it's family, it's community. What in the world do I need an electronic thing for? I know my way around. But eventually, like so many others, I gave in. I just gave in. I discovered, to my surprise actually, that it was very reassuring. It was comforting for me to know that if I was running a little late, or if my memory about the details of the neighborhood was a little fuzzy, I had this calm, reliable, reassuring voice of authority right there calling into my ear, telling me exactly where it was that I needed to go, and exactly how it was that I needed to get there. But I haven't quite got the hang of it yet. A few weeks ago, I was actually scheduled for an appointment to visit at Redeemer in Hinsdale, Illinois. Now, this isn't a problem. I've been to this church a number of times, and I kind of know my way around the neighborhood of Hinsdale and so forth. But I was running just a tad late, and I said, yeah, well, let's not take a chance, you know, let's play it safe. So I brought out my little handy-dandy device, and I programmed in Redeemer Lutheran Church, which in this particular synod generates a long pull-down menu of all the possible redeemers that I might be going to, right? Well, no problem. So I pressed with my thumb, I pressed Redeemer Hinsdale, and then I put it down, and I dutifully started to follow that calm, dependable voice of authority, telling me to turn right, and then to turn right, and then to turn right, and then to turn right. It makes me a little sheepish to admit this, but I actually drove around the block 2.5 times before I realized that my thumb had accidentally hit the bar for Redeemer in Park Ridge, which is a very comfortable walking distance from my own house. So much for obedient, dutiful, compliant following. But this is actually a different kind of day, because as you probably know from what you've seen, this is something in the church here that we call Good Shepherd Sunday. A day when images of compliant obedience, images of being dutiful following sheep, suddenly become positive images, right? Although I have to tell you, it's also a day that calls to mind the fact that it's not so easy. It's really not so easy to decide which voices are dependable voices of authority. Which one should we be compliantly obedient with? I mean, really, when you stop to think about it, there's so much noise out there in the world. There's so many choices, so many voices out there competing to guide us down the right path. Voices assuring us that they are the wise ones, that they are the true ones, that they are the faithful ones, and most of all, that they know the way to that mysterious place of abundance and a fuller life. If you happen to find yourself getting lost in the maze of personal finances and investments, not knowing whether to steer your ship towards small caps or large caps or bonds or money markets or bullion, there is the confident and practical voice of Susie Ormond right there in front of your eyes on Channel 11, always ready to steer you into a safe pasture. And if you've reached one of those points of being completely lost in the frustration of trying to parent a difficult teenager through the valley of the shadow of purple hair and gold rings in her nose, there is the voice of Dr. James Dobson to show you just the right way to use a cattle prod to manage your farm. And for just about every other place that you may get lost along the way, there is the ever-present voice of Oprah Winfrey. The most unretiring retiree I think I know. There is the voice of Oprah out there, knowing the right questions to ask the expert, or to maybe be the expert, or to point you toward just the right book that you need to read in order to get you where you want to go. But I wonder if these are really the voices that restore our souls, that lead us beside still waters, or if there's some other voice that we should be listening to instead. The problem of choosing the right voice to listen to becomes even more difficult, I think, if you've had the experience where someone who you should have been able to trust, and someone you should have been able to trust, turns out to be a scoundrel instead. Like when the political leaders that we rely on to give us direction for our lives and some measure of support or encouragement or opportunity or something, the politicians who never get tired of crying in our ears, "Follow me! Follow me, follow me, when they turn out instead to be interested in just about no one, except those people that can make big bucks campaign contributions. Or maybe like when as a child, you trust the adults in your life to hold you in the safety of the sheepfold, only to discover that they are more interested in using the lambs in their custody to meet their needs, instead of being focused on meeting the needs of the children. In a sense, this problem of hearing many different shepherds all barking orders in your ear at the very same time, really, it's nothing new. In the famous figure of the Good Shepherd, Jesus himself makes clear the danger of all the thieves, all the bandits of his own time, all claiming to be the right voice to follow. Remember his time wandering in the wilderness. All the kingdoms of the earth I will give you, Jesus, if you just bow down and follow me. So it seems to me that it's worth remembering, sisters and brothers, especially in those times when you may feel a loss of direction or uncertainty about the security of the old familiar corral. When you reach one of those times of feeling like no matter how hard you try to set off in a brand new direction, you always seem to end up going around in the same circle and ending up just a short walk from where you began. As you struggle to sort through the cacophony of competing voices in your life and your world, all claiming to be able to lead you to the abundant life. It's important, I think, on this day to remember that finding the way to the place you're going begins for you in exactly the same way that it began for those first disciples so long ago. By taking the time to get to know his voice. And that means prayer. Every day. And I'm not talking about those long talking prayers where we make laundry lists of all the things that we want God to do for us. I'm talking about prayers of deep silence. Prayers of listening, so that you get to know what the shepherd's voice sounds like when it whispers in your ear. And from this deep place of listening, to recognize that what Jesus always calls us to is something called discipleship. True discipleship, which despite what we are sometimes led to believe is never a simple matter of conformity with a program or compliance with the rules being barked in your ear by some disembodied voice pretending to know where you are supposed to be going or how you are supposed to get there. It's not that. Discipleship is a courageous decision to stand up, to embrace the adventure of the unknown, to take the risk of prying open your hands that are holding on so tightly to what? Whatever it is you're holding on to, whatever it is that's holding on to you, some old grief or resentment, some old anger or bitterness. To just open those hands and let it go. To let go of what has been so that you are really free to be ready for what is still to come. Discipleship is the decision to follow the call even when you don't know the destination. Discipleship is a choice to follow the voice, but not any voice. To follow the voice of the living God breaking into your life right here, right now, with the promise that whoever you are and wherever you have come from, right now, at this time, in this place, you are called. You are called. You are loved and embraced completely as you are, but then just as lovingly called to become something more than you have ever been before. You are called to be someone. You are called to go somewhere, and you are called to do something. to step out right now into some new pasture of possibility and hope, purpose and freedom. Perhaps above all else, discipleship is a call not just to hear the voice of the shepherd, but to be the voice of the shepherd. Moving courageously into your relationships and into your community, into your places of work and into your places of play, into the many and various sheepfolds of your life, offering to others that same promise of possibility and hope, of purpose and freedom, which you yourself have received. Because it's by your commitment to be shepherds in his likeness. It is by this that we may